My whole life has actually been about using sport as a tool.
Hello and welcome to the No Shortcuts podcast. Today we have a very interesting individual with us. She's a Dutch lady who is working in India with an NGO called Maitrayana. She has worked for over 20 years in the mental health space using sport as a transformative tool to help people with psychiatric and personality disorders to overcome that using sports.
All the things that you can learn through sport. You go out and you discover so many things about yourself, how you approach problems, how you feel about yourself, because accomplishing something makes you feel good. But also the problems that you have to solve, that you have to pursue if you persevere. I think a lot of people say India doesn't really have, that culture. But I think the great thing here is, at 6 o'clock in the morning, people start walking. People come together, they exercise, they do yoga, they are laughing, they just come together to sit and chat. Some are walking, and I think that's unique. You can be talented, but most talented, like artists or athletes or musicians, will always tell you that talent is nothing if you don't, put the hours practice in it. I think in sport there is no shortcut. So, if you want to achieve something, you better roll up your sleeves and do it.
Feel the beat. We're rising high. Legends don't stop till they reach the sky.
No shortcuts.
It's about the work. No easy wins, just a focused mind.
No shortcuts.
The journey runs deep.
No shortcuts.
Now hear them rise.
Hi Corina.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this. A warm welcome to the Scott Sports India office. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So the No Shortcuts podcast is, our attempt to uncover the untold stories of cyclists, athletes, and individuals who have used sport as a medium for change.
Yeah.
And we believe that we can share their story with a larger audience and draw inspiration from the shared experiences. And we're very excited to unravel your cycling journey and your athletic journey and the kind of work that you've been doing over the last so many decades. So we're very excited and thank you for being here once again.
Thank you for inviting me.
So the very first thing we like to do is, like to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
About your early days, where you were born and how you came to be who you are today. So why don't you take us to, about your childhood and your early memory leading up to today?
That's a long story, because I'm 59, going to be 60, so it will be, take a lot of the podcast time. So I was born in the Netherlands. I think like all the children in the Netherlands, like the first thing is you learn how to walk. The next thing is cycling, because everyone cycles.
Right.
And then the next thing is swimming. So in that sense, children in the Netherlands are already brought up to be triathletes. My mother actually had different plans. She wanted me to do gymnastics, and she really liked the drum bands. So she wanted me to be a dancer in the drum band.
Okay.
But of course that didn't happen. And from a young age I started was interested actually in playing football.
Okay.
So from primary school I started playing. But at that point of time, there was no football for girls at all. So then I started playing volleyball, and then at some point of time, there was a football club, not in the village where I lived, but a little bit further, that started with girls football. So I was one of the first to join, and that has been my journey in sport. And football has always been my hobby and my passion.
Right.
The best thing was actually playing matches.
Right.
So, sometimes I was playing for the juniors, then in the seniors, the opponent didn't have enough players. So then we said, we want to play for the opponents, as long as we could play.
Yeah.
So I spent every Saturday, from morning 9 o'clock to evening 6 at the club.
At the club.
Yeah. And that's actually how I started becoming a coach. because, whatever there was to do, I wanted to volunteer and do something like a referee or a lineswoman. And at some point, I became actually a coach for
Was this up till
small
your
boys, actually.
Was
because
this up till your schooling days?
so
or
I
beyond
was 14, 16.
that? Uh-huh.
So then I got actually into football coaching.
I see.
And I was like, okay, how great would that be if that could be my work, my profession? And my parents were always like very supportive. And I think, that's, for me, that has really been the key. My parents always thought, whatever you want to do, whatever your passion is, you should follow it. So when they said that I wanted to be like a sports coach, which was not a very obvious like choice.
Yeah.
They were okay with it. And they said, just give it a try. And I managed to be selected. At that point of time, there were not that many places for, to be trained as sport coaches. So I was quite lucky that I went through, and then my parents said, okay, now you just go and do that. So I started, and after a couple of weeks, I thought, okay, I'm not very sure whether this is what I want to do in my life, teaching people like how to do sports, how to play tennis, how to swim. So I was a bit like, I really enjoyed it because during the course we could do all kinds of sports, also sports that I had never done before.
Yeah.
And what I noticed was I was really very all-round. All the ball sports like hockey, rugby, volleyball were very easy for me. Gymnastics, dance, not at all, but like athletics and like swimming.
Correct.
And, everything, I was actually able to do it. But then at some point of time, someone came to talk about the work that he was doing. And then I discovered like, okay, you can actually use sport as a tool for something else. And by that time I was 16. And at some point of time you have to choose, which courses you're going to take. And I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I did my internships in mental health clinic. And then actually found a job, in a mental health institution. Yeah. So all in all, I've worked for more than 20 years in mental health clinics in the Netherlands. So I worked with different kind of clients, like people with intellectual disabilities, people with depression, psychosis, schizophrenia, but also people who are addicted. And then together, like with the mental health problem. So, people who are schizophrenic and use drugs, but also people who have like committed crimes, and then in combination with mental health problems.
And then using sport as a tool to help them come out of it.
Yeah, so as one of the, one thing is of course recreation, physical health, the whole cathartic, getting, like releasing energy, but also, all the things that you can that you can learn through sport. And I think, we as sport people, know how that works. You go out and you discover so many things about yourself, how you approach problems, how you feel about yourself, because accomplishing something, makes you feel good. But also the problems that you have to solve, that you have to, pursue if you persevere, these kind of things. Yeah.
So you started off playing football, a lot of football in your childhood, and you developed a great affinity towards sport, and you became a football coach, and then you pivoted to realize that there are different facets of sport, and you heard some talk or something, and you thought, you can use sport as a tool to help others and as a tool for mental health. So was that a defining factor or an event what has shaped your career today? Because much of what we do is linked to our childhood and chain of events that took place in our early days, in our formative years, which kind of make who we are as a person. So, if you can tell us what was those moments or, some vivid memories that made you pivot into taking a decision to do and work in the space of mental health?
Yeah. No, I think the person who came and, spoke about his work and how you can use sport, differently than just performance or, for health or fitness. So that was definitely that moment. And I was also lucky enough that I could do my internship, where this person worked. I think my interest also came because of my sister. I have one sister, she's 10 years older, and she used to work with, patients with neurological disorders, but also with people with psychiatric problems. So from a young age, I've heard these stories and about her work. So I think I've always had that interest. And then, that came together when someone actually came to talk about how you can use sport as a tool.
Yes.
So for me, my whole life has actually been about that, about using sport as a tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is such a space which is not much talked about. Mental health, today we see some noise which is being made, but it is still a very touchy topic and very much often sidelined, even by the near and dear ones. How do you look at mental health as an important factor to physical health? They go hand in hand,
Absolutely.
Right? So how important it is in our times today?
Yeah, I think, in every time, I think it is important. Let's say the lives that we live nowadays might have more, in that sense, stress, because nowadays, we all have to play a lot of different roles.
Right.
And we all have to play these roles also perfectly. So there's a lot of pressure on people, definitely. And it might be more difficult now to deal with it, because also here, the society becomes more individual. We spend a lot of time on our devices and, interact in that sense, of course, also less with others. And, talking about your feelings and problems, that's in general not really something that we like to do, no?
Yes, the first thing is acceptance, that, I am having this problem and I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then is addressing it, talking about it and alleviating ourselves from the suffering or the issues that one is going through.
Yeah.
So I think, why don't you tell us some examples in your, from your 20 years of working in this space, about how some individuals' life changed using sport.
I think one of the things is what we think about is, when you feel aggression, then you should, beat it out, just, take gloves and start boxing. But I think what we, and that's something we spoke about 25 years ago when I worked in a mental health clinic. That's not really the way to go about it. Often when you start beating, you actually get more angry like yourself. And that has two components. One is the beating, but also, how your body responds. Your heart rate increases and, from one thing you get into another thing. Well, the problem with anger is often that people don't realize or don't notice the signs. So people say I just got angry and I punched someone. But they forget that your body gives you a lot of signals. Your heart, your heart starts beating faster. Your hands become clammy.
Sweaty.
You might start, clenching your jaws. And people are not trained to feel these things or to recognize, the signs that are there. So a lot of my work has also been around, can you help people to actually start recognizing these signs, so that you don't have to punch someone, that you can say, okay, I now notice what's happening. You use a different coping strategy to deal with this.
Right.
Other thing I think is like anxiety. I think, sport is especially, a good tool also to, make something, to start easy and, slowly increase the level of difficulty. So, you can experience, initially, your anxiety, your fear, try to deal with that, and then, take the next step. And, when you succeed, then
you feel
after that, you feel good about yourself. All the things that you've been scared of, they actually didn't happen. And then you can take the next step.
That's true. I mean, for me as well, cycling is such a mode to channelize your energies and your thoughts. It helps you to clear your mind, and it has really helped me, go through my 20s and really be happy in life.
Yeah.
That's very true.
No, absolutely. And endurance sports, I think, really has that. People might say it's very boring. But once you get into it, I still feel it's more like for older people also. I mean, I would not have been able to do this when I was 20. I liked playing football with others, and having fun. And so I was a football player. I played midfield. I was midfielder.
Okay.
So the ones who are doing all the crazy running. But if you ask me, do you like running? I would have told you no. Someone needs to run in front of me with the ball, and I will follow. But just going out for a run.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, that was only after like the 40s that I actually picked that up. Yeah.
Right. So you kind of worked for over 20 years in the mental health space in Netherlands. After that, what was your journey and how did you come to India?
Okay, so I worked for 20 years in mental health, and then I don't want to call it a midlife crisis, but at some point you think, what am I going to do next? That am I going to work another 20 years here, or and I really like to travel, so I traveled quite a bit, but also felt you travel somewhere, you go and see all the interesting places, Taj Mahal, visit all the places in Delhi, but you don't really get to know the country or the people. So then at some point I decided, to take a sabbatical leave and to volunteer. And that's actually how I,
You took a break.
changed, let's say in that sense, changed my life. So while I was volunteering, so the first time was a period of 6 months and the second time was for a year.
Wow.
I also started doing more in sport. So I was in Sri Lanka in like a home for people with disabilities. And I got to know some women, and they run a school for boys with intellectual disability. And, they asked me to do the sports sessions.
I see.
So I started doing that. And actually, that's how I also, got into
into more of volunteering and giving back.
So then I got in touch with Voluntary Service Overseas.
I see.
Which is an international NGO, which it doesn't give money, but it sends out professionals. And I applied, and at that point of time, they had... Actually, I applied as sort of social worker. And when we had our training in the Netherlands, we were, in the evening, we were standing at the bar, and one of the staff members of VSO asked, so you're playing football, she said. So do you know a female football coach? I was like, yeah, that's me. So I had never actually mentioned that on my CV. And then she said, we need a female football coach for a project in Kenya.
I see.
So that's how I got into that. Perhaps we need to go back. So also the work that I'm doing now, and also the work in Kenya, is really about empowering girls through sport. So it's actually, giving them like the knowledge or helping them, to gain knowledge, to build their, skills, life skills, to gain confidence, but also like leadership. So many of these programs, they really encourage leadership, and they're also built on girls and women's leadership. So one of the things, besides making sure that the quality of the football, really increased, was also building girls' leadership. So I worked with like girls, young women, and trained them as coaches.
If you've listened this far, I'm sure you're enjoying the show. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button or follow us on the Epilogue Media app, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Now let's get back to the show. Now you're kind of, sharing your knowledge and what you are so passionate about football and sport, and now teaching young girls and young women to use sport and kind of use it to come up in life and explore more avenues.
Yeah. So I think that has also been, let's say, the story of my life. As I told you, I was 16 and became a leader within my own football club. So that has definitely been also a defining moment. So although I'm very different than, my life is very different from the girls in Kenya and the girls here in India.
Yes.
There is really like an overlap or a connection, because I started playing football in a time that there were no girls playing football. There were no coaches. So I was trained as one of the first female football coaches. So for me, football has always been about gender equality. It has always been about, taking steps, challenging the ideas that people have about what girls and women can do. So although I come from a very complete different background, I could really relate to these girls, who also wanted to be coaches and make something out of their life, and who also had to, and still, like the girls I'm working with, have to challenge their environment and have to convince them and have to show that they're able, that they are capable, and that they have the right to do that. And I think in that sense, sport is such a great tool, because you can talk about equality, gender equality, and then after that you leave and nothing changes. But if people see girls on the ground being leaders, playing, organizing themselves, managing themselves, having fun, being able to learn sports, be fit, bring other girls up, then things really start to change.
I think that's very endearing, and I think you might have also got a lot of personal satisfaction, and it might have been very rewarding to see these young girls being empowered by using sport to explore more avenues and go to the places that they didn't earlier. But using sport, they are able to make that leap ahead. So, coming to gender equality, gender equality is such a topic, and it requires a collective effort of the society.
Yeah.
And it's a two-way street. It has to be an effort by both the genders, right? Yeah. So my question is, in your view, what are the key changes that society needs to embrace to move closer to achieving true equality?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Okay, so one thing is allowing girls and women to be mobile, to travel, to make their own decisions about education, about pursuing a career, about sexual reproductive health, about, whether they want to marry, when they want to marry, who they want to marry, how many children they want to have, whether they want children at all. People need to start thinking about that these decisions are the women's decisions to make and not other people. So I think that's a first shift that needs to happen. So if I look at Maitrayana, the organization I'm working for, so one way we do it is by, helping the girls to develop their skills, to understand their rights, to also understand, if you talk about sexual reproductive health, what it is, what it entails, what their rights in that sense are. But then also, they might be able to understand their rights, but then you also need to have the skills to start expressing it. You need to be confident enough to start talking to your friends, to your mother, to your father, about the things that you want, and also knowing that they have a right to talk about it, that they have a right to ask about it. So that's one side. The other side is, of course, working with these parents, with the schools, with the environment. Because if the onus is just on the girls, then it's going to be very difficult for them. So, the whole society needs to change. So that's, we do meetings with parents, and we have discussions. We talk individually to parents, at the beginner's level even. It's really about getting girls out of their houses and starting to talk about, allowing girls to step out of the house, to wear clothes in which you can actually play sport, perhaps plan the household chores, or perhaps there's someone else who can do something which girls are usually doing. Sport actually puts the girls and the families then in a situation in which they have to or can change things.
This effort that you're doing is, very much at the grassroots level. To make a shift and change the mindsets of these young girls, and also make their parents understand about it.
Oh, absolutely. So my role is not like really going into the communities now and talking to the parents, but I work with colleagues who are doing that. And most of my colleagues are alumni from the program. So they started when they were 13, 14 years, either in school or the community. So we have a life skills and netball program. It takes about a year. Girls learn to play netball, and often it's the first time in their life that they actually play. We still hear a lot of stories of girls who say, I've never been encouraged to play, or, my brother could go out, but I was not allowed. My parents told me to stay at home. So for a lot of girls, it's really the first time. And you can also see it, like the way they move. Some of them, they just can't stop giggling whenever they get the ball because they're so excited about it.
Right.
And, that's still like the reality.
That's the real happiness that's coming out of them.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Like most of my colleagues have gone through the program themselves. So they are real like role models, and they are the ones, who go into the communities, and they're in a better position to convince parents as well, because they come from the same communities, and parents think like, if my daughter grows up like her, it's perhaps not that bad. Yeah.
I think we all can be gender champions, and
absolutely.
The points that you've just spoken on is something we all can, bring into practice in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
It's just a change in thought for us to become gender champions.
Yeah. Inviting the first woman on this show makes you a gender champion.
No, we're very obliged with that compliment. And so leading up to today, I've tried to kind of skim through all your achievements, and I've seen that you had an illustrious journey. You've, gone across the country, east, west, in all directions. Name the city you've been there and left your mark. Why don't you walk us through some of your remarkable endurance feats? I have read that you've done 12-hour swims, 24-hour runs, and you've also won a couple of Ironmans. Please walk us through some of your remarkable endurance feats.
Okay, let me start perhaps where I started my story when you asked me about my childhood.
Right.
So I'm really privileged, young age, walking, running, cycling and swimming. My parents have always encouraged me in that sense. So, I could do all the sports that I wanted. So, I think that's a great start, which gives me also a head start of, most of the other women, or actually all the other women at my age here in India. Because I don't think any of them in that sense, has the experience, the mileage, the history that I have. So it's really a matter of privilege, rather than that I'm like a great athlete. I think I'm still, relying on 30 years head start.
Yeah, that's one humble way to look at it, but you've really achieved a lot and you've made a name in the community today. You've recently won the Bergman as well in your age category. So, what goes on in your mind? I believe that everybody has their own training mindset, and we have a way of training and the way we prepare leading up to an event, what goes on in our head while the race or the run or the bike leg is going on, and how we also recover. So if you can give us, a purview into what is the guiding factors between, the guiding principles that shape your training mindset and overall lifestyle.
These are many questions in one. So I think first thing is I just love sport.
Right.
And I think a lot of people say like, India doesn't really have, that culture. But I think the great thing here is, at 6 o'clock in the morning, people start walking. People come together, they exercise, they do yoga, they are laughing, they just come together to sit and chat. Some are walking, and I think that's unique. In the Netherlands, that doesn't happen. You have to you join a club. That's when you do sport. A few people, are doing their own things. But a lot is like organized sport. And here, 6 o'clock in the morning, people go out and do their things. So I also started doing that. In Kenya, I started like running a little bit. So don't think that I'm inspired by the Kenyan runners. No. So when I came here, I actually also started like my morning runs, and I really enjoyed it because for me it was really a way to get to know people and to become part of the community. So, if you're a foreigner, who lives abroad, one of the things you have to do is to connect with the people there, especially when you're a woman alone. You need to make sure that there are people who know you, who look out for you, and, who you can actually rely on at some point of time.
Yes.
So that's how I started. At that point of time, I also thought, why should I run faster or longer? I rather run faster because then I can go home and spend more time drinking coffee. But that actually changed when I participated in Pinkerton. And we were lucky enough as an organization, we always got bibs for the girls to distribute, and then as staff, we go with them and support them. And then at some point, one of the women said like, "Oh, we know you live in Tilak Nagar, and come for a selfie." And actually, that's how I got into Pinkerton, actually into running. And that's also where I got challenged. I remember like the Pinkerton ambassador in Tilak Nagar said like, the Pinkerton they're doing a 6-hour run. And I was like, my God, why would you want to do a 6-hour run? I started running and did the 10K, and which was actually during the TMM, which I won in my age category. So at that point of time, there were 2 people like pushing me. Anuradha Venkat, who was the Pinkerton ambassador, challenged me, to get out of my comfort zone and to do all the things that I thought that were actually crazy. But also my colleague at that point of time, who, so we were like with a management team of 4, and one of them was a man. So for me, it was quite easy to build a relation with the women, but I thought, okay, how am I going to, develop like a working relationship with my male colleague? And so when I won the TMM 10 kilometers, he said like, let's do Pro Cam Slam. I was like, okay, what is Pro Cam Slam? So in 1 year, we completed that with 10 kilometers, 21, then Kolkata 25, and then after that TMM, the full marathon. So
slowly, you started stepping up the distances.
It was quite fast, actually. In 1 year, I
you kind of turned around.
10-kilometer runner.
When was this? Which year was this?
It was in 2018.
2018. And how long have you been in the country?
2018.
When did you move to India?
2016.
2016. Nice.
Yeah.
It's been like 9 years, close to 9 years.
It's almost 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, moving to a new country it's a whole adventure, and that can be intimidating. And you choosing to work in this space is truly remarkable. How has India treated you so far, and what are some of the things that captivate you or inspire you about our country?
Okay. I mean, the country is treating me very well. I'm almost 9 years here, and I'm now invited to speak in the podcast, so I'm treated very well. I mean, what I like about India is it has everything. If you look at the country, there is snow, there is heat, there is water, there is sea, there are cities, there are
villages,
the rural areas. So if you're in India, actually you don't have to go abroad. But I think also the people, it's like so diverse. The food is so diverse. So in that sense, the longer I'm here, the more I realize that I don't know anything about India. I think sport has really helped me to really make India, in that sense, my home.
Wow.
I know there are people who are looking out for me. There are people who are appreciating me, and I still feel that I also have something that I can contribute to. The work that I do, I really love it. And there is a lot that still can be done.
As an Indian, it feels very good to know that, you're having a good time here. And in India, we have a famous saying, Atiti Deva Bhava, means guest is like God. And today you're no more a guest. You've called India a home. So it's very satisfying to know that. Now, Corina, you've traveled the world. You love to travel. You've seen different cultures.
Yeah.
You've gone places. And also, you've worked in the mental health space in Netherlands for 20 years.
Yeah.
Where does India place in the whole mental health space? Where are we? What are the challenges, or what are the tailwinds we've got in this space? What can we do as a country to make bigger strides and more leaps in the mental health space, let alone mental health, but also using sport as a tool to help people fight with mental health issues?
Yeah. By now, it's 20 years ago that I worked in mental health. So I have, in that sense, no idea what's happening in Europe or the US, or I'm not really up to date with that. But I think, there's still like a limited number of psychiatrists. Mm-hmm. And I think reducing the stigma is definitely something that should be worked
the
on.
Taboo.
Yeah. And I think also, recognizing that sometimes you need like medication.
True.
India is the country of yoga. So,
right.
for people, to understand, the body and the mind and the connection. I think really bringing that much more in the picture, that's really an opportunity, I think,
Yes.
because that understanding is definitely there. And I think sport in that sense can really play like a huge role. Nowadays, there's a lot of research about how, running, endurance sport actually affects people's mental health, mental well-being. So I think banking on that is definitely like a possibility. And I think another thing is ensuring like a good life-work balance. I mean, we're living here in the city, and there are people who have just like very busy schedules. A lot of time goes wasted in commuting, but also very long like working hours, then traveling back. And I think especially women, still have a lot of responsibilities at home that are not really being divided over other members in the family. So I think that also puts a lot of women under pressure. You asked me about like how I look at training. I do sport for fun. So I'm not someone who has like a lot of like training schedules. I'm an all-rounder. I like everything. I like 12 hours swimming. I like 24 hours running. I like, running in Ladakh, seeing, what I can and what I can't do. I like triathlons. I like to travel. So, participating in events is participating in events. I'm not really going there, to win. On the other hand, whenever I'm there, I always want to finish first. But that comes with, doing sport probably all your life. And, once the flag goes down or the whistle, then, you go as fast as you can. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's a very beautiful balance that, on one hand, you're going there, at the core of it is to have fun. But on the other hand, when the flag is off, you have a switch and I want to finish it, cross it, and kind of set an example for younger women. Because if you see, your professional and your personal life is going hand in hand. The kind of participation in events and all is, in a way, inspiring a whole young generation and the kind of work that you're doing. So it's very beautiful balance of taking part in these events and also setting an example for younger generation.
I'm just lucky because I can, live the life that I want.
Yeah.
So my boss always says, you live your dream. And I think that's true. I'm just fortunate that I could make like sport my profession. Right. And, that's what I started then as, fighting as a young girl who wants to play football, while others say, football is not for girls. I'm still fighting the same fight. Yeah. But now here in India and, with colleagues who want to do the same.
You mentioned, you're still fighting. What are some of the causes which are very close to you and which, in a very subtle and nuanced way, you keep striving for it and fighting for it? Of course, you're working with Maitrayana and, you're helping women, but what are some of those nuanced things that you keep striving for?
I mean, one of the things is participating in triathlon, and there are a lot of women who say, I would also like to do it. You need to start somewhere. Right. So like a lot of women, they're, scared in traffic. So, from a young age, you need to get into that traffic, no? So if it's not cycling, then a scooter or get your driving license, these kind of things. If you want to become a good runner, you need to get out of your house. So, you need to, fight for your freedom to get out at the time that you want to go out. It means that you have to, perhaps get out and run in the dark. At times that family members might not want them to go out. It also means, you need running shoes.
That's true.
Do women want to spend so much money on themselves, or do they, think it could better be spent on someone else? So that's, like a few of these things.
So at Scott, no shortcuts is the spirit of doing the right things in the right way. And we believe that the greatest personal achievements are no accidents. They are hard-earned and well-deserved. In listening to your journey, it reflects a very similar spirit of no shortcuts. If I may ask you, what does no shortcuts mean to you?
I mean, for me, the word says it all. So, if you want to achieve something, you better roll up your sleeves and do it. And I think in sport, there is no shortcut. I mean, you can be talented, but most talented, like artists or athletes or musicians, will always tell you that talent is nothing if you don't, put the hours practice in it. So in that sense, also, in sport, there are no shortcuts. You have to, be serious in whatever you do. And if you're not serious, then perhaps you should not have that particular ambition. There are a lot of people who have told themselves that this year they're going to be fit and healthy, they're going to run marathons, they're going to do this and that. And then you really have to do it because, as you said, there are no shortcuts.
It's been kind of great hearing about your illustrious journey and the kind of work that you've been doing in our country. I mean, working in mental health and now, with an NGO, and this is such a noble cause that you're working towards, helping young girls from, who are not so privileged and making that mindset shift at the grassroots level. You're really, moving mountains and doing what not many people would like to put their hands into. What is your message, a message you'd like to put across to our viewers, into the universe, which is very close to you, let's say on a personal level or very close to your heart? What would it be?
My message would be, give every girl a chance to play sport. Because for me, it starts there. Once a girl plays sport, then, slowly they can really try to access all the other rights. With sport comes fitness, it comes expressing yourself. It's about, starting to wear the clothes that you actually need, to do whatever you want to do. It's also about, getting appreciation from others for the efforts that you're making. So for me, really, getting girls out there and letting them play, that is really, where we can get, when the ball can start rolling, and once the ball starts rolling, then, there's no stopping. So give the girls an opportunity to play.
It's great. Corina, it's been such a pleasure to have you here. And on behalf of all the Indians, I would like to just give a big thank you to you for the kind of work you're doing in our country. And thank you so much for being here today with us.
But there is no need to say that, no? You don't have to thank me for the work that I'm doing. So this is, something that I want, no? So in that sense, I'm here because it's something I believe in and that satisfies me.
Yes.
It's not that I'm here to do like a service, because it's not about that. It's just a very, very egoistic motive. I'm here because it gives me something, no?
Absolutely. It is something which, it gives you immense satisfaction, and this is something which you want to do But it's just that, you're doing it, also in our country, and it's just gratitude more than a thank you.
Oh, I still disagree, but okay.
Is there anything you like to add to the conversation? Anything I've missed out? You've been very humble to not talk about your achievements and your wins, your podium finishes, and you've also...
What do you want to say? Well, we spoke about it, no?
Yes, but you've been very humble, and you've also quite multiple times mentioned that you got a head start and you've been lucky. But I think, you've also done.
No, in that sense, I sometimes feel that I'm stealing podium places. No, that there are actually others who this now just have to put a lot of effort in it, and she's also here. No, stealing our podium places.
I mean.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I mean, I'm sure people don't think that way. They embrace different cultures and embrace people from across the globe in India.
That's how kind Indians are, no? No, but that's of course what I hope, that people think like, okay, if she can do it, I can also do it.
Yes.
That's actually what I like to hear people saying, like, okay, she's doing it, but I'm going to do what she's doing and better.
Absolutely.
That's what I hope to hear.
For sure. And, you spearheaded this space without having any objective in mind, but just out of so much generosity and kindness. Thank you for being who you are. And once again, a big thank you for being at the No Shortcuts podcast.
Thank you so much. It was really very nice. Thank you.
It's been great talking to Corina, and please let us know how you found our conversation. Feel free to comment, like, share and subscribe the video. A big shout out to our friends at Epilogue Media who produced this show. And don't forget to follow us on the Epilogue Media app, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Until then, see you next time.